Hello, everybody. It's Mrs. Pound, and I am back with another section from Chapter 2, The Chemistry of Life. And we are talking about basic chemistry. And under basic chemistry, today's topic is going to be energy. So our objectives for today's video are going to be to differentiate between kinetic and potential energy, describe how catalysts work, and explain how enzymes work. So, what is energy? Energy is the ability to do work. And remember, from physical science, the unit for energy and work is joules because you need energy to do work and work requires energy. So, they go back and forth, okay? And you can put energy into something by doing work. So there are two states of energy. They are kinetic energy, that's the energy of motion, and it may take the form of heat, light, electricity, etc. Here it's in the form of mechanical energy of somebody riding a bicycle down a trail. There's also potential energy. This is energy that is stored until being released, like in these batteries. And a lot of times energy in living organisms is also stored as chemical energy. Now, an important thing about kinetic and potential energy is it can be converted back and forth. So you can go from kinetic to potential and back again. An example of this is energy in kerosene changes from potential energy to kinetic energy when the lamp is lit. Also in the previous picture, it showed a picture of a leaf, and light energy, okay, moving light energy is converted into chemical energy in food. So lots of examples. There's also the laws of thermodynamics. These are man statements of how energy changes occur. These became developed because of the invention of the steam engine. And when steam engines were invented, scientists became very interested in studying energy conversions because in a steam engine you are having a lot of these conversions taking place where you're say burning coal to produce the steam, which turns turbines and different things. So a lot of energy changes there, so they started to study them. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy is neither created nor destroyed, it is just conserved. That means we convert it from one form to another. And all the energy that we started with is all the energy that we end up with. So here, if we want electrical energy, one way we can produce that energy is to transform it from mechanical energy in a river to electrical energy from turning turbines. So we have to convert from one form to another. The second law states that whenever energy is converted, some is wasted. It's not destroyed, but it's never converted 100% to the desired form, but is usually lost, we say, as heat or light, like with this match. You know that, and light or heat are maybe what's desired, but you not only the light, we might want the light from the match, but not necessarily the heat. Or we may want the heat, but not necessarily the light from burning something. And sometimes we do want both, but it's not 100% perfect because even, there's crackling sounds. Some is even lost, even if you want both light and heat, some is lost as sound because you hear the wood crackling. Along with this law, sometimes it's called the law of entropy. Entropy is a measure of the unusable energy that escapes when energy is being converted from one form to another. And there tends to be an increase in the disorders of these energies or degeneration. The energy is dissipated, it's more spread out, it's not as usable as it once was. Now, another important aspect of chemistry that we have to understand is the kinetic molecular energy that is happening within matter. kinetic molecular theory states that all molecules are moving. So I have billiard balls to show those are supposed to be kind of like atoms, and when you hit them, they move around. And these might be gases, okay? They're spread out, they're moving around really fast. They're not really touching each other. Then, for liquids, the molecules are closer together, but they can slide past one another. So they are moving. So when you pour a liquid, it's like those particles are able to slide past one another. Maybe you've even poured BBs out of a cup before. It's kind of that motion. Also, with a solid, the molecules are still moving. They're just moving in place and they're vibrating back and forth in place. So they're not moving around like the gas molecules flying all over the place, but they are vibrating in place. Now, the amount of motion, as I just stated, determines the state of the matter. So if they're moving really freely, really fast, gas, if they're able to slide, liquid, and if they're just vibrating in place, a solid. Another important concept we need to know is the difference between exothermic and endothermic reactions. And an exothermic reaction is a chemical reaction that gives off heat. This is when things feel hot, like a fire. And an equation that we can write to show that is A plus B yields X plus Y plus energy. So it gives off energy so it feels warm, like a fire, like a match. And there are a lot of reactions that do that. An endothermic reaction is a chemical reaction that absorbs heat. It feels cold. So the equation for that might be A plus B plus energy yields X plus Y. And a reaction that you can do for that is baking soda and vinegar. And if you touch the flask, if that's what's being added here, it will feel cold. Also, ice packs. Those ice packs that you punch, they have chemicals that are separated. And when you punch them, you puncture the bag and it breaks open inside and releases those chemicals together so that they will feel cold, because what they're doing is they're taking energy from your body into the ice pack. Now, on the left-hand side of the yields, those are reactants. Those are the starting substance of a chemical reaction. And so over here, these might be our starting substances that we pour together in test tubes. And on the other side, after the yields, those are the products. This is the physical result of a chemical reaction. So here in these test tubes, we can see some reactions have taken place because there's some bubbling, there's some color changes, maybe there's a difference in temperature, all those kinds of things. In the case of matches, there's light release. Those are all evidence of chemical reactions, and so there are some products being produced. A lot of times we have something called activation energy when we have a chemical reaction, and this is the initial energy needed to start a chemical reaction. A lot of times things need to be heated up. In the case of the match, you have to have friction to get the chemical reaction started with the chemical at the end of the match, or you would need heat from another source to light that wood. So that is activation energy. However, we can use something called a catalyst. This is a substance that affects the rate of a reaction but is not changed in the reaction. What a catalyst does is it can lower the activation energy. So catalysts affect the rate of reaction by changing the amount of activation energy necessary for the reaction. So it's like going up a hill energy-wise, except for it lowers the hill. So you don't have to have as much energy to get the reaction started. in living things, we have something called enzymes. These are protein molecules that are produced by living cells to catalyze specific reactions. And the reason we need these is because living things cannot handle high temperatures. It would kill the living thing. So they have to have a lot of catalysts to make reactions happen. And I'm going to do a demonstration in class, so that will help you understand that better. But if reactions happened at their normal activation energies, living things would not survive. With enzymes, there is an active site. This is the portion of an enzyme surface that is believed to bond to a particular substrate during the action of an enzyme. A lot of times we call these lock and key reactions because if we take a look at this picture, here is the active site on our enzyme. And here is a substrate. The substrate is the reactant, okay? So a substrate enters the active site of an enzyme. Here, the enzyme changes shape slightly as the substrate binds. So we have an enzyme-substrate complex. What happens is because it changes shape a little bit, it breaks the bond. So the enzyme product complex here, and products are produced leaving the active site of the enzyme. Now this can also go backwards. We can have two substrates come in, it can bring them together, cause a bond, and then we can have one product leave too. So this process can go the other way, depending on the needs of the cell in the organism. So characteristics of enzymes. First of all, they're proteins. They are organic catalysts. And I have a picture of meat here because raw meat will contain a lot of enzymes. In fact, it contains an enzyme that breaks down peroxide. So if you put a raw piece of meat in hydrogen peroxide, it will start to bubble. They're also highly specific. They break down or build up molecules, and that substrate, that lock and key, that substrate has to fit just right. If it's the wrong shape or if the enzyme's the wrong shape, they will not fit together. That's how specific they are. Just like you have to have the right key for the right lock, you have to have the right enzyme for the substrate. Many require energy, just a little bit, okay? Not as much as would be required without the enzyme. Also, many release energy. That's why you get so hot when you're running or anything, because you're speeding up all the chemical reactions in your body because you need more energy, and so you start to get hot. They often require a coenzyme like vitamins because these affect the active site. So that's why it's important to eat diet with lots of colorful fruits and vegetables, because all those fruits and vegetables, they're those different colors because of the different vitamins that they have in them for you. They are also affected by heat, radiation, pH, and chemicals. So if you heat up meat, it changes colors and everything. That's because you are changing the enzymes, you are changing the proteins in that meat, and you're actually going to make it so the enzymes do not work. So that's why a fever, if you go over a certain temperature, it can be really bad because it makes it so your enzymes will not work. And they often work in series. You'll have not just one enzyme for a reaction, you will have many, many enzymes, and that substrate will go through many different reactions until you get your final product. So our objectives for this video were to differentiate between kinetic and potential energy, describe how catalysts work, and explain how enzymes work. Now don't forget to keep playing this video till you get to your questions, and remember the 5 questions in your margin.